Kiddushin Daf Vav continues the Gemara's discussion of various different terminology that can be used for Kiddushin. It'll also talk about terminology that's good for Gerushin, for creating a divorce, and even terminology that can be used for freeing an Eved for a Shechur. So let's begin. The Gemara is discussing the terminology of Kiddushin, what the man should say to the woman in order to effect the Kiddushin when he gives her the Kiddushin, or he does Shtar or Bia. So the Gemara quotes a brisa that has 6 examples. They all work, but it's presented as 2 sets of 3. So it says, if he says, Harayat Ishti, Harayat Rusasi, Harayat Knuyali, you are my wife, you are my engaged, you are inquired to me. All these are mikudeshes, they work. If he says, Harayat Shali, Harayat Barshusi, Harayat Skukuli, you are mine, you are in my possession, you are connected to me, those work as well. So Gemara says, why don't you just say all 6 together as one? Why do you have to say 2 groups of 3? The Gemara says he learned them in groups of 3. He taught the first 3, he learned the first 3 and he taught them, and then he learned the second 3 and he taught them as well. Now the Gemara has some questions that are not answered, at least not all of them, about what other types of terminology could work. So the Gemara says, what if he uses words that paraphrase the pasuk, the psukim describing a marriage? So if he says miyuchedesli, you are singular to me, coming from the pasuk that says v'hayu basar echad, that they will be one. If he says you are miyuedesli, from the phrase ashalo ye'ada, referring to a marriage, it means that you are destined for me. What if he says you are izrasi, you are my azer, you are my helpmate, as the pasuk said, Ezer Kenegdai. What if he said Negdasi, quoting the Kenegdai part? What if he said Atsurasi? Rashi says that's from the word Atzeres, from a pasuk in Shmuel, Ki Isha Atsura Lanu. Tzalasi, what if he said you're my rib, as in Chava, who was a rib taken from Adam? What if he says Sigurasi, because the rib had flesh that was built around it? Yisgar Basar Tachtana. What are these words? What if he said Tachti, you are under me, meaning you are in my place? What if he said tfusasi, I grabbed you? What if he said likuchasi, you are my purchase? What if all these halachos? So the Gemara doesn't answer them, but the Gemara says there is one we can answer. We have a brisa that says likuchasi works. Likuchasi is mekudeshes because it's from the main pasuk of Kiddushin, which is ki yikach ish isha. Now the Gemara has a question. What about charufasi? What does charufasi mean? So the only thing we see is the pasuk discussing a shivcha kananis who gets freed and married, says a shivcha charufa. So what's that? So it's a brisa that says charufasi works because in Yehuda, in the region of Eretz called Yehuda, in Arusa was called a charufa. So what does that prove? Because one region in Arusa is called a charufa, therefore the entire world, you can use the word charufa, you can say charufasi. So the Gemara says, okay, we'll recalculate what it says there. What it really says is as follows. Charufa works because the pasuk uses the word charufa. It says, V'hi shevcha nechrefes le'ish. And in Yehuda, they call it Arusa Charufa. As says, I don't understand you. If you're breaking a pasuk, why are you breaking what they do in Yehuda? This is what we call the classic Yehuda v'Eid L'Kra. The pasuk says something, you're going to bring a proof from a region where they say that. So this is okay. Third explanation, really the pasuk is no good because the pasuk is talking about Shefcha Kananis. It's not talking about a real marriage. And it's Yehuda. All we meant to say was that in the region of Yehuda, Harayat Charufasi works because Charufa is another word for Arusa. Now there was a question on all these Lashonis here, ones which we said work. Are we talking about where they were discussing getting married when he said that, or they were not discussing getting married at all? He just said that out of the blue. Either way, we have a problem. If they were not discussing getting married, how is she supposed to know what he's talking about? These words are too unclear to make it understandable that he means to say that I want to marry you. And if they are discussing getting married, what we call Iskin Be'iske Kiddushin, then he doesn't have to say anything. Certainly if he says these ambiguous phrases, it should be good. And he doesn't have to say anything at all, because of a Mishnah that it brings him a chokis if somebody is discussing getting married with a woman and then he gives her something without saying anything. So Rabbi Yossi says that's Kiddushin and it works. So Rabbi Yehuda says no, he has to explain what it's for. But Rav Huna Amar Shmuel, so we pack like Rabbi Yossi. So therefore we know that the halacha is that that's enough. So why are we even discussing whether these lashonos work or not? So the Gemara says because if you say something, you can make it wrong. If you don't say anything, so then she understands what's happening. But if you say something, then it could be that your lashon takes over. And if it's a bad lashon, then it's worse than if you had said nothing at all. And therefore, that's our question. We want to know what do all these phrases mean? Are they Kiddushin, or is it a way of hiring her? If he says you are acquired by me, maybe he means as a servant. And therefore, those all remain unanswered. Okay, now the Gemara goes into this topic a little bit more deeply, that of what happens when they're discussing Kiddushin and then he gives her something. So the Gemara says that, let's go to Brisa, if they were discussing Kiddushin, or if they were discussing Gittin, and he gives her Kiddushin or he gives her a get, he doesn't explain what it's for. He basically says it's good enough. He doesn't have to say anything. She understands. Rabbi Yehuda says that it's not good enough. He has to spell it out. So there's Rabbi Yehuda and Shmuel. They have to be literally in the middle of the conversation. It couldn't be that they were discussing it recently and then there was a break. They have to be literally in the middle. And Rav Elazar says, that is the halacha as well. It says the Gemara, this is actually Machlokes Tanai. Rabbi says they have to be in the middle of discussing it. Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon says, no, it could be even if they're not in the middle of discussing it, they were just generally discussing it. So Maras, if they were just generally discussing it and it's not what they're discussing right now, how does he know that this is what he means? So Abai says this is what we call me'inyan le'inyan ba'osei ha'inyan. It's in the general topic of marriage, like they're talking about wedding plans or they're talking about where they want to live. So it's the general topic, but it's not the specific topic. It's not specifically talking about agreeing to get married right now or agreeing that there should be a get right now or discussing that there should be a get right now, because she doesn't have to agree. Says Rav Huna and then Rav Shmuel, again, the halacha of Yasi. And Rav Yemar said to Rav Ashi, that which Rav Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel, that somebody who doesn't know the halachas of Gittin and Kiddushin should not do anything, should not be involved with them. You have to know it clearly. Does that include even this halacha that has to be Inyan? So he said, yes, it includes this halacha as well. And now the Gemara goes to different lashonos of Gittin, what works and what does not work. So the Gemara says the same thing applies to a get. He gives her a get, and he says, Harayat mishuleches, Harayat migureshes, Harayat muteres. That's a standard lashon of gerushin that works. So you're sent away, you are divorced, or you are permitted to every person. That's a standard lashon of the gerushin. Then we go to the Brisa. Brisa says that it's obvious that he gives her a get, and he says you are free. That's meaningless, because free is a term which you say for a shifcha that you're freeing her. So harayat ben chayrin, that's meaningless as far as a wife. If he says to his shifcha, who he's trying to free, and he says you're permitted to all men, that's not true either. That's not a terminology you could use for a shikhr, so that doesn't work as well. Now the question is, what we're not clear about is what if he says to his wife, Harayat la'atzmech, you are to yourself. Does he mean to say you can work for yourself? You don't longer have to work. I have no connection to your dime anymore. Or does he mean you're completely on your own, meaning that she's divorced and she's completely in her own rishus? So Ravina said to Rav Ashi, let's bring a proof from a Raisa that says that the essence of a get shikhr is Harayat ben chayrin. We're talking to a male. You are a free man. Harayat la'atzmacha. You are to yourself. So if the phrase harayat la'atzmacha works even to an eved where the master owns the body of the eved, the husband who does not own the body of his wife, it should certainly be enough. There's less of a transference that needs to be done. She owns her own body. It's just a relationship. And harayat la'atzmacha or harayat la'atzmech should certainly be enough to make that transition. Next, Ravina says to Rav Ashi, if somebody says to his eved, I have nothing to do with you. I have no interest with you. I have no business with you. Does that work or not? It's like withdrawing his ownership. Is that effective? Is he saying that do you belong to yourself, or is he just saying I don't want you to work for me anymore? But he's not setting him free. So on that, Rav Nachman said to Rav Ashi, and some say Rav Chanan Mechuzah said to Rav Ashi, we could bring a proof from a Mishnah. The Mishnah says if somebody sells his eved to an Oivik Kechavim, then the eved goes free. And the reason is because he's mechuyev in mitzvahs, and if you sell him to the rulership of an akum, he's not going to be able to keep the mitzvahs, so we penalize him that he loses control of the eved. He also has to buy his freedom for even 10 times his value. However, he does have to give him a get shikhr, because even though we penalize him, the eved still has the halachos of an eved. In order for him to become a regular Ben Yisrael, he needs to receive a get shikhr. Rav Shimon Gamliel says that's only if he didn't write an oinoi when he sold him. If he wrote an oinoi, that counts as a get shikhr. What's an oinoi? Rav Shesha says that is when he writes him, when he transfers his ownership to the Eved Kechavim, he says, if you'll run away, Ein li esek bach, I have nothing to do with you. I have no connection to you. So there you see the phrase Ein li esek bach is a valid shikhr. You don't need to do anything else besides that. Says further, Abaye says somebody who is mikadesh with a loan. Now we're going to get into a lengthy sugya of Kiddushin with a loan. And there are a number of different ways to be Mekadesh with a loan. So you could have Kiddushin with a loan being that he gives her a loan, he lends her money. That could be a Kiddushin. Or you could have that he extends the term of the loan. Or you could have that he says, you don't have to pay me back the loan. What are these things? Are they all Kiddushin or not? And of course, you have to give her something of value for it to be a Kiddushin. The question is, do these work? So Abaye starts off and he says, someone who's Mekadesh with a milveh, that is, he gives her a loan, that is not a valid Kiddushin, because the money belongs to her, it becomes hers, she has to pay it back, but it's not considered to be that he gave her something of value which she keeps, and therefore it's not a valid Kiddushin. Now, if it was Hanas Milva, that is a benefit that she gains from the loan, that is Kiddushin, but you can't do that because it looks like interest. It looks like he's collecting interest on the money that he lent her. So the Gemara says, what does this mean, Hanas Milva, the pleasure or the benefit of the loan? What does that mean? So the Gemara first wants to say that he lent her 4 zuz, and she was supposed to pay him back 5 zuz, and he said, I'll be meichel the 5th zuz in exchange for you becoming married to me. Your Kesef Kiddushin will be the 5th zuz. So says Gemara, that's not partial ribbis, that's real. That's not appearance of ribbis, that's real ribbis. That's first of all. Second of all, that's as bad as a loan because that's money that she just owes. It's not money that she actually received. So the Gemara says, no, what it really means is that he extended the time of the loan. He said, I lent you the money for 30 days. I'll extend the loan period, let's say to 60 days, and in exchange for that extension, which is worth money to you, because you would have had to hire somebody to get that extension. So in exchange for that, you will be married to me with that hana. So Rashi explains why this is not real ribbis, but that is what the Gemara wants to call hanas ribbis. Now, Rav has another case. What if we have a matana manas lahachzer? That is, he gives her a gift, but she has to return it. It's only a gift on the condition that she returns it. If she doesn't return it, then it's stolen in her possession. So that counts as a gift. And on the one hand, while she has it, it belongs to her. So therefore, that is potentially, you could say that that's a gift that she got. On the other hand, she is obligated to return it. So do you view this as a valid giving of values or not? So Rava says it doesn't work in a number of ways. It doesn't work as payment for a purchased object. It doesn't work as marriage for a woman. It doesn't work as a kesef kiddushin. It doesn't work as giving money for a pidyon haben. There is, however, one thing that it works for, and that is truma. If you give truma to a client on the condition that he returns it, so the halacha is it counts as if you gave truma. The rest of your fruits are now kosher. You're mataking them. However, you're forbidden to do this because it looks like the client is giving kickbacks to the people to giving him the truma. In exchange for him receiving the truma, he's giving it back to you. And that's an illegal procedure. The assumption is, Rashi explains, that he's going to give him other truma. Meaning in exchange for the kohen returning this truma, he's giving him other truma, and that's this is a kickback that the kohen's giving him in exchange for receiving the rest of his truma. Now, of course, what's Yisrael going to do with the truma? Yisrael is not allowed to eat truma when he gets it back from the kohen. The answer is he could sell it. He could sell it to a kohanim, and then the money is chulin, and the money belongs to him. Now, the Gemara is bothered here. Does Rava hold that a gift you have to return counts as a gift, or if it doesn't count as a gift? If it counts as a gift, so then it should work for even the other cases as well. If it doesn't count as a gift, why does it work for truma? So the Gemara answers that Rava holds that it works. It is a gift, really. We see that in Hilchas Luv and Esrig. If someone gives a Luv and Esrig to someone else on the condition that he returns it, the person who received it owns it at that time, and he can be Yaitz Luv and Esrig even on the first day of Sukkot, where it has to belong to him, where you need to have Lachem. Now, therefore, the Gemara slightly changes. The Gemara says that in all these it really works. It works for a Pidyon Ben, it works for a purchase, it works in all of those things. The only case where it doesn't work is to be Mekadesh Nisha. To be Mekadesh Nisha, you can't give her something that she doesn't walk away with anything. And that's because it's like Chalipin. She gets something and she has to give it back. Chalipin, we want to transfer ownership, we want to transfer possession by giving her something, and then she has to return it because it's just a symbolic exchange. So that is valueless for the woman. She doesn't get anything out of it in the long run. And we said that she's not going to be Gomer Makdish. She's not going to have complete agreement to give over herself in that situation, and therefore that doesn't work.